This lesson talks about how to use the formula for the circumference of a circle in order to find missing parts. And what I want you to realize is that in class, I want to show you how the formula came about or why it is the way it is. But right now on this lesson, we are going to just discuss what the formula is and how to use it. My dog would like to participate in the discussions here. So, the vocabulary that you need to know for this lesson is simply the circumference of the circle. So, you need to know that the circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. If we had any other shape than a circle, we would say it is the perimeter. So, perimeter and circumference both mean distance around a shape. Circumference is particularly for a circle. The formula for circumference, there are two ways we can write it. We can write circumference equals pi times diameter, but we could also write that circumference is 2 pi r, and that is because the diameter is equivalent to 2 radii. So either formula will work. Doesn't matter which one you use. Now I want you to take note that if the directions say give the exact answer, when it asks for the exact answer, you are going to keep pi in your answer. So I'm going to go through some examples. Sometimes it will ask for an exact answer, and other times it will ask you to round or estimate. So let's take a look at the first example. It simply asks us to find the circumference of the circle, and we should recognize that it is giving us the radius of the circle. So we're going to first write the formula. I have two choices, pi d or 2 pi r. Since I know that this is my r value, I'm going to choose the 2 pi r. The second step is to plug in the numbers. So c equals 2 pi times the radius, which is 11. The next step is to multiply. So it says here give an exact answer, which means I'm going to keep pi in my answer. So that pi stays in my answer. I don't do anything with it. And I multiply 2 times 11, and I get 22 pi. So the circumference of the circle is 22 pi. And that's what you would type into your answer right there. And we are talking about miles, so make sure that if this were not on digits, you would include the label yourself. So the circumference is 22 pi miles. I want you to realize that 22 pi means 22 times pi, and pi is approximately 3.14. If I round that just to 3, I know that the circumference is about 66 miles. So that's a broad estimate. Let's take a look at the next example. The circumference of this circle is what we're asked to find. This time we're not looking for an exact answer, but we are rounding to the nearest hundredth as needed. So again, the steps stay the same. Write the formula. This time, since I know that this is the diameter given, I'm going to use the formula pi d. The second step is to plug in the numbers, pi times 25. And then I'm multiplying. So I want to multiply, and it says to use, up here it says to use 3.14 for the estimate of pi. So I'm going to have 3.14 times 25, and I will use my calculator to do that. And on the calculator, I get 78.5. So the circumference is about 78.5 feet. Again, if this were not on digits, you want to make sure that you include the label in your answers. Alright, let's take a look at the next one. Find the diameter of the circle with the given radius, and we're using 3.14 for pi, so we're giving an approximation. Remember, you always start with the formula, C equals, and then I have two choices, either pi d or 2 pi r. Since the question is asking for diameter, I'm going to use pi d. I plug in the numbers. 19 equals pi d, and again they say to use 3.14 for my pi, so I'm going to plug in 3.14 for pi there. And then I'm going to solve, so I have to divide both sides by 3.14. Using the division property of equality. I grab my calculator to do that work, and 19 divided by 3.14 results in 6.05095, and this will go on forever, so we know it is an irrational number. We are asked to round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to follow the directions, and since that's a 5, that means that that rounds up to a 1. So 6.1 is approximately the diameter. So 6.1 centimeters. Alright, the next example we have is that the circumference of the inner circle is 88 feet. So that means that the distance around this is 88 feet. The distance between the inner circle and the outer circle is 4 feet, so they give us that picture there. By how many feet is the circumference of the outer circle greater than the circumference of the inner circle? So we need to find the circumference of the outer circle and then compare. And they're telling us to use 22/7 as the approximation for pi. So let's take a look. The first thing I need to do is find the radius of the inner circle. So I'm going to use the formula C equals 2 pi r. And they do tell us that the circumference of the inner circle is 88 feet. So I plug in 88 feet for circumference, 2 times pi, and they tell us to use 22/7 for pi, times r. So I'm going to do a little bit of simplification here. I do not want you to use a calculator right now. So that's 44/7. You should be very, very comfortable with that. 2 over 1 times 22 over 7 is 44 over 7. R. Again, I don't want you to use a calculator, so I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of 44/7 to get 1, because those cancel and those cancel. So I'm left with R here. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And here, I'm going to put the 88 over 1 and cross cancel. That's 1 and 2. So that means that the radius of the inner circle is 14. So we have 14 feet for the radius of the inner circle. And now I'm going to find the circumference of the outer circle. So let's use a different color here. The circumference of the outer circle I'll put in blue. So circumference equals 2 pi r. And I fill in the numbers that I know. I don't know the circumference. Pi, we're going to use 22/7 as its estimate. And I just found out that the radius is 18. Now, to get 18, I did the radius of the inner circle, which was 14, plus the distance between the two rings is 4. So the radius of the blue circle is 18. Alright, so let's do some calculations here. 2/1, 18/1. So none of these will cross cancel. So I will go ahead and let you use a calculator for that. So we get, when we do the 2 times 22 times 18, the numerator is 792. And the denominator is 7. And I'm looking at the directions. We are rounding to the nearest tenth. The circumference of the blue circle, if I do that division, is about 113.1. And that's in feet. Oops, sorry. That's in feet. Alright, so let's go back to the question. There's my dog again. Alright, it says the circumference of the outer circle is how many feet greater than the circumference, of the inner circle. They're arguing over a bone over there. Sorry about that. So, the circumference of the outer circle is 113.1. And the circumference of the inner circle is 88. So the difference is about 25.1 feet. So the blue circle, the greater circle, is about 21.5 feet greater than the circumference of the inner circle. Alright, I want to do one more example with you. In this example, a bicycle wheel makes 5 rotations. So here I have my bicycle wheel. And it's making 5 rotations. It travels 34.02 feet. Find the diameter of the wheel in inches. So if I think about moving this wheel, and I start rolling the wheel, that circumference is going to move the wheel forward. So we're moving it forward 5 circumferences because I'm going around 5 times. I want to just go around once, and that would be the circumference. So what I need to do is take this 34.02, that's how far it went in 5 rotations. Divide that by 5 to find out how far it went in 1 rotation. So when you do that division, you get 804 feet in 1 rotation. So 1 rotation means 1 time around the circle, which is the circumference. So what I really just found was the circumference of the circle. So if I'm finding the diameter, I'm going to plug in the formula, or write the formula, C equals pi d. I'm choosing that one since I'm looking for diameter. It says to use 3.14 for pi, and I'm going to plug in 6.804 for the circumference. So I plugged in the numbers. Now I solve. Divide both sides by 3.14. And when I do that division, I get 2.16687, and it continues on. So that's the diameter. That's an irrational number, but the directions up here say to round to the nearest whole number as needed. So this to the nearest whole number is 2. So the diameter is 2, and we need to include the label. Now, I was thinking that I made a mistake because it certainly doesn't make sense that the wheel would be 2 inches. But if you take a look at my work, we were talking about the circumference being in feet. So when I solve this problem, we are talking about the diameter being in feet. So the diameter is 2 feet, but the question is asking in inches. So let's take it from here. So I have the 2.16687, etc. on my calculator. I want to know how many inches that is. So I take that, I put it into inches by multiplying by 12, because there are 12 inches in a foot. So take that answer on your calculator, multiply by 12, and the correct answer is 26 inches. Alright, hopefully that's enough for you. Good luck on your digits homework for section 22.